As an embassy, we always have a fixed workload. Of course, consular affairs, lots of Dutch tourists come to Greece, so this is for the consular section. We do trade, economic affairs, political affairs. We like to understand what is going on in the country. When I came, there were two main priorities: migration and finance. And since I'm here, we've added climate change and energy transition. Greece is doing really well on green energy, but we believe that the Dutch have special knowledge where there's a lot of room for collaboration. On a personal note, when I came, it was actually tough. COVID was still going around. We were forced to walk on the street with a mask, which is not very conducive to meeting people, having parties, building up a network. It took up 1.5 years of my first period. Then I decided, now it's time to see Greece. So I promised myself that every month I would see something new. And we're 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, and that's what I've done. So I've discovered a lot of your country. For Easter, I was in Paros and Naxos. I went to Gavdos, the most southern point of Europe, and I talked to the mayor, I talked to the Coast Guard. This was because so many migrants were coming from Libya. So for my last month, I will still visit Milos, I will go to Simi, I will go to Castellorizo. But I must say, I love the islands, but I really fell in love with the mainland, the north, the Peloponnesus. So really, I have been traveling a lot and discovering your country. For us, it's not so much about growth, it's for having good trade relations and investing in the right sectors. One of the sectors we are collaborating a lot is the defense sector. There was the DVA, so a lot of Dutch companies came from the Netherlands. There was a big Dutch stand, and there's a cooperation program between the Greek defense industry and the Dutch defense industry. It has been running now for 3 years and is extremely successful. It's the most successful defense cooperation program worldwide for the Dutch. That is telling you something. What we have also been doing, and that we're quite proud of, is creating an ecosystem in Greece of innovation, digitalization, specialization, and we do that through Orange Grove. Orange Grove was started 12 years ago by one of my predecessors during the crisis, that we felt we have to support Greece in flourishing their economy, and it's a program for young entrepreneurs. It functions as an incubator. Around it, we have now a program which is called Entrepreneurial University, where Greek and Dutch universities work together on creating an entrepreneurial spirit in students. So when you study engineering, that you think already about the applications. And the third part of it is the SDG House Greece, so the Sustainable Development Goals, that businesses not only work to make money, but also have a good eye for the environment, social impact. So that's an important part of our work in the economic sector. I mentioned already the green transition, and one of our main programs is in offshore wind. The Aegean has a lot of wind, but it's also very deep. And the Dutch have a lot of knowledge on offshore because of our oil industry. So these are examples of our collaboration. Well, the Netherlands is a trading nation, so of course we think that tariffs are very harmful. We've always been for open trade. It's not only harmful for our country or for the European economy, it's bad for consumers worldwide, it's bad for prosperity. And in practice, we see that already. The EU is looking very carefully at how to respond to the possible tariffs, and the Commission has now identified a list that has been published in especially auto industry, airports, to really come up with targeted tariffs in order not to hurt ourselves and our consumers too much. I think the Netherlands is a very special case. The Netherlands is one of the most supportive of the Ukraine, and it has a lot to do with what happened 11 years ago when a Malaysian plane was downed over eastern Ukraine. And a lot of Dutch passengers were on that plane, and of course everybody died. So this is a national trauma in which we really feel the Russian aggression. So for the Dutch, it's not only Ukraine that has been attacked, but it is something that concerns ourselves as well. I think because of this, we as a nation understand this more than some of the other countries in Europe. So the support is very strong. The Netherlands has just pledged $2.5 billion for Ukraine, for reconstruction, for justice, and of course also for military. There's a 10-year agreement in order to reach those goals and support the Ukraine. A concrete example, the Netherlands, together with the EU, is delivering hundreds of drones to the Ukraine. When it comes to peace talks, we firmly believe that Ukraine and the EU should be at the table. And then The Hague is seen as the legal capital of the world, so it shows that we firmly believe in justice. So you cannot have an end to the war without provisions for justice afterwards and bringing the aggressors to the courts. And so our Minister of Foreign Affairs is actually supporting with the core group in the EU that a special tribunal will be installed for the crime of aggression. Well, the Dutch always have been firmly in NATO. The Secretary General is a Dutchman, and he's not the first Dutchman leading NATO, which shows already our support. Actually, next month there will be a very big NATO conference summit in the Netherlands. So our support for NATO, I think, is clear. At the same time, we do believe that we have to invest in European security, but not at the expense of NATO. NATO will remain vital. At the same time, we have to make sure that we invest in European defense, and as I said, the Dutch are firmly committed. For the social issues, it has to be a balanced approach. We are almost there at 2%. We want to grow to 3.5%, but at the same time, we need to invest in health, in climate, in education, in other social issues in order to have strong societies. Let me start with a negative side of tourism. I told you I was just in Paros, and a few weeks ago there were terrible floodings, and when you're there you understand why there is a quick build-up, and it has a lot to do with tourism. You see that in Crete as well. It's beautiful. But there are a lot of tourists during a small time of the year. Now, we've seen in Amsterdam what over-tourism can do to a city. Regular shops disappear, and instead it's only tourist shops. Housing becomes very difficult, a lot of Airbnbs spring up, and then the normal citizens, they leave the city, and you only have the Airbnbs, the hotels. So we really, as cities, have to think about how to deal with this type of tourism, and also as tourist countries, how to deal with that. Amsterdam is part of an alliance with cities like Florence and Barcelona, and the city of Amsterdam has also been in contact with the mayor of Athens to discuss these issues, and especially that we learn from each other in terms of best practices. Because let me be clear, I'm a tourist myself often, I'm not against tourism. But what we see in Greece, that there has been a lot of emphasis on the numbers. Get more tourists, it's good for the economy. And slowly there's a change, also because the citizens, they feel the effects. The ferries are too expensive. A meal in Paros, a simple meal, is so much more expensive than in Athens. So we are trying to see what could be a good strategy, how can you invest in the right type of tourism, the high quality, related to food, to education, many things that you mentioned, in order to avoid all the pitfalls of looking only at the numbers. And there's another thing, what we see, the burden on climate and the issues of water, for instance. Since I'm here, and that's almost 4 years now, I've seen that the summers are getting hotter, and they're really getting hotter, and the summer is longer. So when it's 40, 45 degrees, tourists don't enjoy the islands anymore. So we have to combat that climate change and to extend the season or make other parts of the year more attractive so that there's a better division of tourism. But in the end, yeah, I hope many people can enjoy the beautiful country.